It was up, man. You all right?
Yeah, man. How's it going?
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I'm cool. Cheers. Cool. Can you hear me right and everything? No echoes, right?
Yeah, it seems to be all right. It lagged a little just then, but try again.
Yeah. It lagged last time I noticed. There was like little bits where I was like jerking around and stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Nothing to do
I
with
could
my
just forget
pre-existing
that it
medical
was back.
conditions, but
Yeah, both went there.
by the way, I've got like epilepsy or something, but I'm sensitive about it as well, so
A lot
sure.
of bright lights going on behind you, though, so be careful about that. Some serious glare on that cabinet.
Oh, what? I can hear my voice now. What's that?
Is it playing from YouTube?
uh
You've got some serious lag on your screen as well.
right. I can hear it, but I don't know where or why.
Oh, why?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's it. I've got it. I was on the channel like a knob. Oh well. I had it open up in my browser. So when we
Uh,
when we started live streaming, there's a 4 or 5 second lag.
Browser.
Very good. Right. That's it. So that's everything. There's nothing. Can't hear anything else. That's fine. Full screen, and then that's it. So, Matt, I've been researching, Planet X.
Oh yeah.
So there's been a lot of shit come out just lately from SETI. Oh, SETI was a bit poshy, wasn't it? Obviously, this search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and there's like an article. I think it was this year that said that like they'd pretty much hypothesized that there was a clustering and orbital effect on some of the trans-Neptunian and the Kuiper belt objects. They couldn't really explain, and they didn't really know why they were doing it. But all the theories basically were completely solved by having like a large planetary body that had a huge elliptical orbit that was like, well on the furthest edges of our solar system. So there's like 2 or 3 articles, and there's one last week that was sort of like, I got right into it because it's fucking exciting that like there might be this huge object there or a huge planet sort of thing. And I got into it a little bit, and I found out all that shit about Nibiru, that some of the ancient civilizations spoke about. And I know we spoke about it before, but mate, that's fucking crazy. There might be some huge, like, some massive planet somewhere that we've just not seen yet.
Yeah, can you
Um,
imagine?
that concept, man, it's blowing my mind. It's like, because there was a point when we didn't know about Pluto, and I'm sure Pluto was discovered like obviously after all the others, and then there was obviously bits in time hundreds of years ago before they discovered like Neptune and shit like that. And there's obviously points in time where we just didn't think those planets were there at all, and then we saw them, and then they're fucking massive. Obviously not Pluto, but like, imagine not knowing about like Neptune or Uranus, whatever, and then
Yeah,
discovering it,
yeah.
and then it's like there's a fucking huge planet out there, and we just didn't notice, or we just didn't see it, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. I imagine what Jupiter, Saturn, those sort of planets they've probably always been able to see at least just with the naked eye.
I hope so.
Um,
I do hope so.
yeah, but
It's huge.
yeah, because you can see those, can't you? I'm sure just with the naked eye. But like
Yeah.
going going further out than that, like you said with Neptune and Uranus, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't see those. So they would have, like you said, been a certain point where they just discovered them. And who's to say that this isn't the point now where we're discovering Planet Nine?
Mm. Well, I don't think Planet X was meant to mean like Planet 10. You know what I mean? Not in like Roman numerals. I think it was just like X is in
Unnamed.
unknown, yeah, or like X marks the spot or something. I don't know, but it didn't mean
We're
number
going.
10. And yeah, that's it. But like I've seen people on the SETI YouTube channel or the SETI the Facebook page, sorry, putting in comments like, "Oh yeah, well I like your article, but Planet 10 wouldn't be the 10th planet, would it? Planet X wouldn't be the 10th one because and it's like no, it didn't mean that though. It just meant like X, like you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
unknown planet, just a placeholder for like what the planet might actually be. And people aren't interested in that. Like, they just want to pick the only fault that they possibly can. In that, like, it
Yeah.
might mean, like, oh, actually, you've got this wrong SETI, and therefore I've got some sort of fucking moral high ground over you straight away.
I guess
That you made an error.
that's kind of the internet, though, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
YouTube and Facebook and stuff. People love to have that input, and if they can criticize, the better.
pretty much. That's it's ugly. It's an ugly part of people's, but it seems to come out in a load of different ways, doesn't it? Like, it seems to be there is a part of humanity that feels that way, and then wants to just point out any sort of flaw, any error in anything you do, and that seems to be like a very well observed, very measurable like human quality. I mean, we all have aspects of that. But yeah, I think it takes a certain sort of person to like point it out to the SETI Institute, like especially on social media when all your friends can see that you've been a knob and shit like that.
Yeah.
Weird. But yeah, so the article, man, he was saying that the thing could be several to 15 times the size of Earth and mostly gas. So some of the things that they've sort of released are like some of the hype, because it's only a hypothesis basically. They said they're 80% sure that it is there, which is awesome, and 80% is like a big, like that's freaking, you'd bet your mortgage on an 80% bet sort of thing. Like it's massive, but at the same time, it conflicts in almost every way. All the facts, so it's like several to 15 times the size of Earth, mostly gas, 10 to 20,000 year orbit around the sun. Potentially kicked into our solar system for another one. It could have already been all the rest of it. Like there's an entire like list of facts that sort of are based around it. And this Nibiru thing is all the same stuff, but every number has been exaggerated by an exponential factor. Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
instead of being a 10 to 20,000 year orbit, which is what SETI are sort of estimating, Zachariah Sitchin was like, oh, it's 3,000 years. Like, so it's sooner. So that the doomsday comes around sooner. He said that it was 10 times the size of Jupiter and not 10 or 15 times the size of Earth. And shit like that. And it's like, it's all the same sort of stuff. And you're talking about the same sort of facts and the same sort of things. But like all of this Nibiru conspiracy bullshit stuff, I'm not calling it bullshit yet. I've got an open mind, obviously. But all that sort of stuff, it's like, every fact is roughly similar. But all the Nibiru stuff is exaggerated by 3, times by 3. It's bigger and more deadly, and it takes less time to get around the sun. And do you know what I'm saying? It's everything, but it's all just fucking. I don't know, dude. I don't like the way it is.
Sharks and aliens, and it's got guns that are coming to get you. And
there's a race of like 10-foot tall super aliens called the Anunnaki that are going to come, and they actually initiated a process in ancient times as basically ancient astronauts. And set about panspermia on the Earth and shit like that. It's just leap after leap after leap of faith in these things that like there's no evidence for any of that. Obviously, there's no proof in any of it. You're just expecting to believe these ridiculous things, and there's loads of them, and it's like again and again and again. It's like fucking hitting you over the head again and again and again with it. And it just for me anyway, it just put me off more and more and more, because even though SETI are a bit sensationalist, like a lot of the stuff's pretty reputable. Do you know what I mean? Like they're genuinely pretty objective and report some of the scientific facts like quite well. But then, yeah, the other people, the conspiracists, because there's no, they're not accountable for anything. It's just your own opinions and shit.
Yeah.
That then it's like, yeah, well, no, it's 10 times bigger than Jupiter. You know what I mean? It's like, right, well, how do you know that? Like you've never seen it. You've got no evidence. You've got nothing. Like you've got nothing. Like is it just nothing? Just zero, based on nothing. It's just your opinion. Daft.
Yeah. How far away is it supposed to be? You say 10 to 20,000 year orbit.
Yeah, that's what SETI say. 10 to 20,000. So it's really vague. So, but basically for them, they don't know.
What's the orbit of Pluto roughly? So is it much further away than Pluto?
That's a good question, man. I just don't know. Hundreds of years, I presume, but I don't know how many.
Yeah, I'm sure that like it's, however far away it is, it's like much further away than anything else that we would consider a planet or a dwarf planet or
well,
way out there.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is with it, and again after my little afternoon of research and stuff, with a 10-inch telescope, 10-inch,
big telescope.
Anytime I mention that, like
you can't help but say 10-inch.
I've got a big dick. All right, just stop asking me about it. It's massive.
Yeah. Big telescope. Huge lens.
Yeah, glands, huge glands on it. Anyway, the big telescope with a 10-inch telescope, you can see Pluto from the Earth. right? So even as an amateur, a 10-inch telescope is a few £100, you know, a few $100. It's not like a crazy bit of kit. So you can definitely get that, and you can definitely buy one from like Argos in the UK and shit like that. And with that, you can see Pluto. So Pluto, some of the planets are visible in the sky, like visible with the naked eye in the sky. And with a small amateur telescope, you can see Pluto, which is tiny. Pluto is like, I believe the surface area of Russia is the same size as Pluto. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's tiny, it's smaller than our moon. It's a tiny little thing, and you can see that from the ground with a telescope. So if this thing's bigger than Jupiter, or I mean, 15 times the size of the Earth, you would definitely see that in the night sky. You would definitely see it with a naked eye, and you could definitely see it with a telescope. So it's either one or two things. It's either that we've seen it and we've thought it was something else, or there's a weird one of those like don't know what you call it. It was like something that's really dim can appear to be far away, but it actually is close up but really dim. Do you know what I'm saying? Or like something that's really bright and close up, or really bright and far away can appear closer to you in the sky. Do you know what I'm saying? Like in terms of stars. And it's a similar sort of effect as that. Or we've seen it and we've not noticed. So like once we know where to look for Planet X, we might have already captured it a million times on radio telescopes and on some of the, like we might just be able to find archives and look in certain sections of the sky and there it'll be, sort of thing. So it's either that or it doesn't exist at all, which is the other one, obviously. So that's a really interesting thing, and people have been looking for it and haven't found it at all. And I presume it can't be difficult if amateurs can do it, but there's just no way. There's no way it's there.
Do you not think?
Not as big as they say it is. Because the conspiracy theory is that it comes in and then it like brings a load of shit into the solar system. Like Sitchin said that it like there was an ancient planet called Tiamat where the asteroid belt is basically like between Mars and Jupiter, big asteroid belt. There used to be a planet there, and that this Nibiru thing came in. One of the moons hit it and destroyed it into bits. And then as Nibiru came through the solar system, like thousands of years, like 400 and some 1,000 years ago, it destroyed the rest of the planet, hitting it, and another moon hit it and shit like that. And Earth is one of the bits that came off Tiamat. And that was the entire story of it. And like he's been almost 100% discredited by astronomers, academics, philosophy, all of it, for using not only like flawed data and stuff, but like for using just completely misusing astronomical terms, like mistranslating the ancient text, but also like using incorrect astronomical and scientific terms. And it's just been like, you know what I mean, like flawed methodologies and shit. And it's just been almost completely discredited. But none of that seems to stop people believing in it happening. And that's fascinating to me. That these people, like whoever, the people that believe on it, have disregarded the consensus opinion, have disregarded logic and opinion and basically facts and other, like, you know, astronomical and scientific facts in order to then believe in this story. And I do find that fascinating.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about earlier when it comes down to people just wanting to believe. And if anything, when you show them that kind of information, they just double down on it for whatever reason. Like, no, now I believe this more. I'll go away and slightly alter what I believe, very so slightly. So now I can say that you haven't disproven my original belief.
Yeah. Mate, I don't know. I wanted to go into it and say, like, right, well, I want to suspend disbelief, whatever, that this might be a real thing, that it might, you know, it might be something that happens. And then, like, you kind of can't if you, I don't know. If there's objective laws, if you want, of like maths and physics and like rationality, like logic. And if you can disregard all of those things, then you're off in a separate playing field. You know what I'm saying? And then a counter argument of logic and rationality won't make any sense to you because, well, it's like I've obviously disregarded, and I've disregarded all of that as well by believing in this thing in the first place. And then, so like the counter arguments for people, it's the same as like the flat arse people as well.
Yeah.
The flat Earth theory. Yeah. Right. No, the flat Earth theory. These people, they go away more convinced of their arguments after having a conversation with somebody, because like they don't, they just like, no, yeah, but what about this? Or like, no, but Sitchin said this, and like actually in these ancient Sumerian texts that he mistranslated, um, like there's actually people, like there was ancient people that had looked like a guy was in a spaceship, and it just fucking doesn't look like somebody was in a spaceship.
Yeah.
Like you can't just say that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like like the sky's purple, Mike. Doesn't make it purple. Like you can say whatever you like, but it doesn't make it true. Do you know what I mean? Like I believe you believe it, but you're not some magician. You're not some fucking sorcerer of the dark arts that can just be like, the sky is purple. You disprove me. No. You've made a ridiculous claim. Like the burden of proof is upon you, sir.
Definitely.
Like I can't just accuse you of committing a crime and you have to defend yourself. It's like, no, I've got to provide the evidence as well, and they can't provide the evidence because it's bullshit.
Yeah. That'd be interesting though. Like, who knows? Maybe you'll be eating your words in 10 years' time when they're like, look, it's here. It's here. Nibiru is here.
Mate, I will eat the hat. I don't know if that fucking happens, but yeah, it could do. I don't know. Like, if they're 80% sure anyway that there's a planet. So some of like the four arguments in particular from SETI were just like, there's the gravitational pull and clustering of trans-Neptunian and Kuiper belt objects. So they found a few things that were quite big. Like they've called one Biden or Bidden or something, and it's like this big thing in the Kuiper belt. It's actually really large. And there's one called Sedna that has its own moon. It's that big, called Eris. And there's one called Make, I think. And there's a few of them, man. There's like several trans-Neptunian objects that are big, very big, comparable to Pluto sort of thing. And they're finding more and more of them all the time. Now, bearing in mind, obviously, you can see Pluto in the sky with a 10-inch telescope. So like you can see some of these smaller things if you know where to look, sort of thing. And they're only discovering them now. So in terms of like a for argument, it's like, well, it might be there and they've just not seen it, or they've not known where to look or how to look or anything like that, or it's really dim in the sky or something. But in terms of it, if it is massive, there's like an inversely proportional relationship between that. Like the chance of you finding something big is easier because it's bigger. And it has bigger influences and stuff like that. So I'll be interested to see over the next couple of months what these telescope arrays. There's a Japanese one called the Hyper Summit. Hyper Exceptional Telescope or something. It's got a really cool name.
They just add words on the front of it, don't they? Like large telescope, very
large, extremely large. Yeah. But where's that going though? Like the phenomenally large telescope. Like, come on, there's only so many of them you can do.
Telescope like, 10,000.
Yeah, infinity scope or something like that. Like, how far are you going to go? There is a ceiling to all those like
go inwards
adjectives.
Well, they reckon that it's on like an orbital inclination, which is what they call eccentric. So you know how, say, if you looked across, imagine like a flat plane, we're going around at, say, like, I don't know what it's referencing towards. I don't know if it's like I don't know what 0 degrees is, if it's Earth, or, because they've got to have some point of reference, obviously, for what 0 degrees is for it to be flat. I don't know if that's Earth's orbit, maybe.
None of the planets float on a level plane. They're all ever so slightly elliptical, aren't they? Like none of them really going on. It's called the gravitational plane, where the way that the solar system was formed, sort of thing, was by giant gas clouds, and it forms like like a ring around a star, a ring around like Saturn has rings. You know what I mean? They tend to all settle down within a certain radius around the sort of circumference of the planet. And it's the same with the star. That the star, like the star's there and there's a flat plane, there'll be a deviation of like hundreds of miles where it's all roughly on the same sort of a line. So like all the planets will dip virtually up and down, but only a little bit within the certain band. And then this one comes in from the top right to bottom left, while the other planets stay within this certain like little band of stuff. I think.
Well, they think that, it's something like that. I think
they
think that
bullshit.
Planet, well, I don't know, obviously fact check that stuff, but I think Planet 9 they think has got an inclination somewhere between 25 and 35 degrees, which is very extreme compared to pretty much everything else in our solar system. Like, for example, I think Mercury is one of the more significant orbital inclinations, and that's like 7 degrees. Saturn is like 2 point something, and then most of the others are like 1 point something, like 1.7, 1.5. You know, they're all really like on an angle, but ever so slightly. Whereas this one is coming in, you know, like at like that. And
like a boss, just doing its own thing, like
yeah, just fucking off. And
say something.
That could have even potentially affected the inclination of all the other planets. Something I watched like this simulation online that someone was using, like it's called like Universe Simulator or something like that, where they'd entered all the sort of theoretical details of what they thought, you know, Planet 9 was, where it was, all that sort of stuff. Ran the simulator, and it showed over time that the inclinations of all the other planets were starting to increase sort of towards that. And I think because it's like a massive object that's quite far out, it almost tilts everything else in the solar system ever so slowly over like millions and billions of years. And there's some theories to do with that it could potentially even be like a rogue planet, so a planet that's been thrust out of another solar system or something like that, and that's why it's got such a significant inclination.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I've heard two theories. One of them was on that SETI article that I read. One of them was that in the far reaches of the solar system like that, there's just simply not enough material to form like a really big planet like that. That they definitely know that like out there there wasn't enough of the dust, basically, or whatever it was. Like, I don't know how they know. Really, I should have probably figured that out, but they don't know. They do know there wasn't enough material out there to physically create a very large planet out of the stuff. So that one of their sort of theories, if you want, is just that it's like come from another planet, which is known to happen. That it can sort of be expelled,
another solar system,
float its own way over. But it's rare, but that is a documented thing, and that does definitely happen. Like, you know, it has happened before, but it has far-reaching implications if that has happened, because it means there's been a star. It's either very old, obviously, like our sun's like 4 billion years old or whatever, but it's come from somewhere else, and there must have been other stars in the region, or there could have been, you know, explosions. You know, the sun could have burnt out or supernovaed or something like that. There's a million different things. But the thing is, once they know, it's intelligent, you know, it's very clever the way they do it. But like, once they know one piece of information like that, they can infer like 5 other things. Do you know what I mean? So like, if it is that, and it's coming from somewhere else, we've got a body of information elsewhere that'll inform other things, and they'll be really clever about it. They'll be fucking really like wily about it, and be able to find out a million other things from just like looking at it and studying it and doing the fucking spectrographies and like the light analyses and all that sort of stuff. But apparently as well, if it was on a 3,000 year orbit, like again, Sitchin said 3,600 years, I think. And if it was on an orbit that fast, or whatever, you know, that short an orbit, or it came around that fast, that the gravitational effect would definitely be visible, or much more visible on the planets than they are. And I believe the current sort of model on like where the solar system is, and sort of like the orbits and the planes on which the planets orbit the sun is already pretty much well understood, or, you know, pretty much like solid science sort of thing. Like, there's no wobbles or like gravitational influence that people haven't been able to fully account for.
Interesting.
I don't know. Again, I'm fucking talking out my bum all, mate. It could be definitely check this stuff. Again, that was just on the article. That one I read one, literally just on SETI. It was on this week because like the guys have said they were 80% sure. So it was like a sort of a sensationalist like title where it was like they
all
said,
caps.
Scientists,
all caps.
Yeah. Scientists sure that something exists, and it was like, we're pretty much 80% sure that the theory would be correct if the planet existed and shit like that. And there was like 4 conditional words, and it was like 80% and not. And it was all sorts. It was like, if anything, I've been a bit disappointed just lately with SETI, because all these stupid, that they found this radio signal somewhere that the Russians have been studying, and they found another one that was like a dimming in a star they couldn't understand. And like the headline of this article was like alien Dyson sphere discovered and shit like that. And it's like,
Wow. Clickbait.
fuck you, you fucking pig. There is no way that that is something that you can claim. It's sensationalist clickbait
So you click on the
journalism.
article, isn't it? Yeah, it's unbelievable that they're even allowed to do that.
Not good bait. And I expected more of them, basically. And they've disappointed me a few times. And there was another one where these Russians have found a signal they can't understand. And they heavily, heavily implied that it was like extraterrestrial and it was like being covered up by the military. And the Russians had been studying it and it was bullshit. It was all bullshit. It was like a hiss from some part of space they couldn't understand. And it was just a bit that didn't fit in any of the models so far. It was bullshit. Like when you read it, it was like, oh, fuck you, man. There was nothing in it.
We've heard a hiss somewhere in the outer reaches of space. It's the Russians.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
That's it. Fuck you, Russia. So that was it. But they've done that a few times, man. It's like you can only cry wolf. Like what? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you keep doing that, and I keep falling for it, then I'm as much to blame for your shitty fucking journalism as I am for you doing it. It's one of them where that's it now for me. They've had 2 or 3 strikes basically, and they're out. Like unless you've got some firm evidence for me, these sensationalist titles are now basically meaningless. Like in my mind, that's a bit brutal, I guess, but
lost all credibility.
Yeah, well, they have. But with them titles, I'll read the articles, and if they've got some science for me, you know, then hell yeah. But I don't think they do, mate. And then, like I said, there's been a few times now, at least twice, where they've said like alien megastructure discovered. Fuck you, have you? There's nothing. You just can't. Like what they've got is they've analyzed the light coming from the star over a certain period of time, and I mean literally like it's a pinprick in the sky, and they've looked at it close up. And the type of light has dimmed, the intensity of the light has dimmed a bit, and they can't figure out why. And they've jumped from that to extraterrestrial Type 3 Kardashev civilization that's intergalactic and can harness 100% of the energy of the star. And that's why. And it's just like, oh, no. There's like so many steps that you've leapt to get to that. And every one of them is aggravating to me.
Well, it's confirmation bias as well, isn't it? It's like we have a predetermined idea in which we would love to be the case. And so like any little chance that we can possibly get on, you know, jumping over these stepping stones, we're going to fucking fly over all of them and land at our goal.
Yeah. It's like cheapening the entire experience by you've give up. It's like you've give up your credibility, and what you've got back is likes on a Facebook page. You know what I'm saying? Like you've put your reputation on the line, and you've pretty much sold out a part of your integrity to garner likes on a fake like an internet page. And if that's how the media has been run, I think that should say quite a lot to people about stuff, and it certainly has to me about the way that those things are, or certainly where those people's priorities lie, is not where I thought they were. It's not where I think they should be, even though I don't give a fuck what I think, obviously.
Utter objectivity.
Yeah, just like garnering likes and the thing should not be where you should be objectively reporting the facts to the people and shit, and you're not doing that. You just want to give up the goods for a fucking so you can put on an article saying that you've definitely discovered extraterrestrial life and civilizations that have got a like come on, it's just what are you doing? You fucking that's it. 3 strikes and out, man. That's it. If you've got any evidence for me, you've got something I can have a look at, then yeah, fine. But I'm certainly not going to get super excited anytime I hear anything else they sort of do. And even though that is a bit cynical, I'm just protecting myself really because I've been hurt before, man.
Yeah.
And they've hurt me before, man.
Yeah. I guess that's probably a sign of the times, like that even someone or an organization within the scientific world you would consider to be totally objective is getting involved because they've seen probably how effective it can be by doing that kind of sensationalist journalism or clickbait. I don't know if maybe it somehow bumps up their budget and their revenue. They get a bit of people talking, obviously what SETI have said, SETI have done. People saying the word SETI online probably has a positive impact on them as an organization just through, whispers. But yeah, it's definitely a shame. I guess that's the case with pretty much all media now. You've got to be real fucking cautious. Just, it hasn't become easier. Like, I think I'd convinced myself for a time that everything's easier now because of the internet and information is more open and accessible. But there's just a lot more information. You've still got to sift through it. If anything, you've got to do a lot more sifting than ever before, because any old arsehole's got a voice, and almost equal a voice as me or you. And so I think we probably need to be teaching in schools and even adults, like critical thinking, when you're actually reading stuff, measure, you apply your own sort of logical arguments towards everything, like question everything. Because if you just go in with too open a mind or with a bit of confirmation bias, you can search anything like all dogs are red. If I Google that, I'll probably come up with something that shows that, and I'll be like, yeah, see, look, the internet says it. It's written in words.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame on that informational front. That we've just got to be more careful.
I completely agree, man. I think there's so much information that it dilutes everything to a point where it's difficult to find anything. But it all comes with the internet, especially. It's like, it's an interesting dynamic, because it's like the strength of the internet is that everyone has a voice and everyone has an equal say. And actually, one of the big weaknesses of the internet is turning out to be that everyone's got a voice and everyone can have a say. Because in real life, you're a fucking pleb, and like yes, you can leave me a shitty YouTube comment. Like, you're more than welcome, but it doesn't mean anything. I mean, like, everyone's got a voice now. So yeah, I think if you're not objective and you're not looking at yourself in that way, and you're not sort of like, well, here's my bullshit, here are my thoughts, here are my feelings on things, and you're not really consciously aware of the sort of like the opinions and the biases that you have as a person, then yeah, you can lead yourself into confirmation bias, and then you don't realize you've done it. Do you know what I mean? Because you externalize these concepts that exist in your head onto something objective, something external, and then you look at the external thing that you've put ideas into the head of, and then you're like, yeah, well, you said it, it's your words. It's like, yeah, no, but I've took several proactive steps to consciously put those words in your head through my perception of you. And then because you're outside of me, you're an objective thing. You're like an external thing now. It's like, well, yeah, but you said, you know what I mean? And people do the same thing with attacking other people. Like, they project their own insecurities onto other people. And you see your own flaws in other people. And then because they're another person, you can like shout at them and attack them and shit like that. Like, you take the opportunity to do it because you're hard on yourself internally, and it's sort of like, it comes out. And it's the same sort of thing with confirmation bias, man. There's just people, like I said with this, some of the research that in this, people they just want to believe so desperately that their belief in these concepts and ideas transcends the laws of maths, science, physics. It transcends what people like, the consensus reality of the framework of knowledge that we all share as a world society, in the face of like overwhelming evidence that to the contrary in every conceivable way, in every conceivable field of astronomy, science, logic, math, everything. And yet you can still believe so strongly you'll attack others. You'll make shitty YouTube channels called like Nibiru 2016 New and shit like that, where you're just desperate, just clawing at these like fleeting opportunities in your life to find these little things that confirm what you already believe. And it's not that. The key thing is that you don't realize you're doing it. And it's terrifying to me, because you can get yourself into a situation where you have essentially delusional. I'm not accusing these people of anything. It could be real. Like, the planet might zoom in next year, and I'll be like, oh, well, I was an idiot, and I'll admit that. But these people have essentially delusional beliefs, and they don't realize that they're delusional.
Well, that's not the only way. There's two, isn't there? And they're both bad. They're both scary. You've got what you've just said, where it's potentially because they have delusional beliefs, like they've ignored all of the evidence and they don't even realize it, and they're still sort of typing in things in all caps for clickbait, and they don't even know that that's the way that they're behaving. Or they do know and they just don't care. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's, yeah, so neither are good. One is like kind of, I don't know, it's like the Matrix, the red or the blue pill. Like, one is like, I choose ignorance because, you know, it's going to feel good. I don't
I know what
know.
you mean, man. I think that concept of good and evil in that way, like that's a judgment in it. That's a human concept, and you're applying some of that, even though it's obviously loosely to do with your own thoughts and feelings and shit. Like you're applying a sort of a human concept to something that's not doesn't like the universe and this planet doesn't care whether it's good or evil. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because that's a concept that only exists within your mind.
Yeah.
And again, you can project onto it. Like you can very easily see the universe as a cold, harsh place because it's freezing cold and it'll kill you immediately. But that seems negative because you don't want to die. You know what I'm saying? Or like, I don't want to be frozen to death in an instant, and therefore that's negative in my mind, and therefore the universe can appear to be a sort of a cold, harsh place. And then because that's that's emblematic of that entire thing that we sort of speaking about just now. It's like, and then because I've said in my head consciously, and I've decided to believe that the universe is then cold and harsh, then it's an external concept now. And even though the concept's still only within my head, it appears external, and I've like forced my opinions onto it and shit. It's a really similar sort of thing. It just frightens me in general when you see people that like they don't realize they're being a certain way. And I think it's because I've noticed that in myself, and I'm projecting that onto them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like because and you were saying when we spoke like last week, or whatever. Like you expect certain things of yourself, and therefore you expect them of others, even though others don't expect that of themselves. You think they should. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. Whereas like I would always be or err on the side as much as I'm consciously capable of just taking them few seconds and being like, am I being a knob? Like, is this is this the right way to do things? Like, is this what's going on or not? And just being like objective and sort of self-aware. Whereas I don't think many people really do that. I think we're actually kind of unique in being almost exclusively like that across the board in our lives. You know what I mean?
But we say that, and maybe there are ways that we're hiding from ourselves right now that we just don't want to accept. And then in 5 years from now, we'll be looking back at us, those fucking idiots, they thought they had it all figured out. They were hiding this from themselves. They were hiding this from themselves. So, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely right, man.
Yeah, there is definitely a filtering process, though. Like, whenever I've made anyone else feel uncomfortable, my immediate reaction is to turn the mirror around and look at my own behavior and think, shit, right, before I walk away feeling like that was the right thing to do, I need to check, was I right to say this? Should I have gone down a different route? Were they in the wrong in the first place? Let's go through that again, like rewind and go back through it all, like as objectively as I possibly can, with the memory of what happened from, obviously, my point of view. It's my memory. So that's you're going to get so objective. But yeah, just put in everything that you do. Not everything, because you do want to live in the moment and stuff as well. And you don't want to be too fucking, I don't know, you go crazy and feel anxious all the time if you double check everything you do. But if you ever make somebody feel uncomfortable, or there's a feeling that you get when you know you're wrong. And I think a lot of people just sweep that under the rug when really you should have a good old fucking look at that. You should pull that feeling out under the microscope, figure out why you did what you did. Could it have been prevented? If this occurs next time, maybe you'll try and behave differently.
Yeah,
there's definitely a feeling that you get when you know you're wrong.
Yeah, man. I think I do anyway. Like, it's like, oh, I've been a dick. Even if I wouldn't admit it, which is the thing. Like, in certain situations, it's like, that's like a power move, isn't it? Where you're like, oh yeah, I was wrong. And it's really difficult to do that. Like, if you ever argue with somebody or like, or with your girlfriend or something, sometimes actually I'll cling on to shit, even though just for the power of it, like, no, and it's like, it's infantile, do you know what I mean? To like cling on to these ideas and again, it goes right back to this, like, for me anyway, and again, anecdotally based on my life and my sort of experiences and shit, it's definitely been a very infantile, a very like, no, like, it is mine, that sort of shit. And you're just like, you're clinging on like an idiot. And that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of being a child and my mum telling me that I shouldn't stay up past 9 o'clock because I've got school the next day. And I'm like, no, I want to play Final Fantasy. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And I've just been a dick. And like, I think you do know. I think you definitely know. But it's just like it's like clinging to shit. It's not good. It's like attachment.
Once
But
you know, what do you do with that
yeah,
information? That's the thing. Like, once you've got that information and you've realized that you're wrong, then what are your next step? It's not the fact that you're a dickhead because you were wrong once. It's like
yeah,
you're a dickhead if you're wrong all the time, and then all the time when you were wrong, you just do nothing with that information. You carry on being like that. That makes you a dickhead.
That's it. Like everyone makes mistakes, everyone fucks up, and everyone says stuff that's quite just stupid and irrational and stuff like that. It's not that you make those mistakes. It's about admitting it and admitting it to yourself, and not being objective with that sort of thing. Where it's like, well, actually, I could have done that better, and I will next time. Like that's the thing. It's like, is that difference between like having a thought in your head and then actually doing it? Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, I want to have bigger muscles, but then not working out. Do you know what I mean? It's like, only half of it is having the concept, having the intention in your head. Like the work, like the real hard work, the discipline, is actually physically living that every day. Do you know what I mean? Like actually using those to inform your everyday actions. And I think in a lot of ways, the same as always, if you can master that connection between the mind and body, like through force of willpower, I can force my body to do things, even if the body doesn't want to do that. You can overcome those sort of things. That is a microcosm for success in a lot of different ways, man. If you can just force your body to do something, and that's something that people really fucking struggle with across the board. And I know I do in certain areas of my life. Same as anybody, we all struggle in certain ways in that way. But that's what loosely, and again, just purely anecdotally based on my life, that's what it seems to be. It's like there's like knowledge and experience. They're both forms of knowing. Do you know what I'm saying? But like I can, like I said before, I can read a book about how to ride a kayak, but it doesn't take me any closer to being good with the paddles. You know what I'm saying? Like there's that a massive difference between those things, like actually acting out on your thoughts or acting out on your intentions, or like the difference between prejudice and discrimination. Do you know what I mean? It's like actually using your thoughts and your intentions and your actions to consciously inform the way your body physically acts in the world. Like the things that you like, not striking people with this part of the fist, or when you get angry and stuff like that, like not acting out on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that in a load of different ways. It's the connection between having an intention and then actually acting on it or not.
I guess a lot of people then, with that example, the fist example, people do it all day, every day. It's amazing more people don't get struck because like people want to strike people. I want to strike people, but I haven't really ever struck anybody, not as an adult anyway, not regularly, like not for no reason, not just because someone didn't hold the door open for me, so you just whack everything into it.
A rabbit punch as well.
Yeah, Superman punch. I used the fucking back wall to like use my entire back.
Ridiculous wind up punch, like
1-2, and then the uppercut. But that doesn't happen very often. So people obviously are using, some restraint, but I think they only go so far with it. Like it's much more of a like, I'm not going to attack you, but I'm still right. I walk away from this situation with the knowledge that I'm the bigger man, when really you haven't done any analysis of wrong in the situation. You're taking the easy route, and then you're using it to feel good about yourself because you didn't use violence. It's like in what we're talking about, course correction, like knowing something and then acting on it. It's like, imagine if you're the captain of a ship and someone wires in and says, and you've said, right, there's no icebergs. I know this route. I've been on this route 10 times before. There is no icebergs. There's no landmass. And then someone else says, well, I don't know. There could be today. And then, actually, Captain, we've just got radioed in. Someone's told us that there is now an iceberg directly in the path that we're going from A to B, and he just fucking rides that sucker right down because this is where we were always going. And I've said, they'd rather be wrong but continue to do with what they originally set out to do, than to like admit that they're wrong and say, actually, the greater good of this situation is for me to correct my course and go a different route than what I'd originally argued with you about. But people are so fucking stubborn; they associate their belief with their identity. And so, if you're if you're questioning that belief, you're attacking them as an individual. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I know we speak about it all the time. Like I fucking like a broken record sometimes with it. But like, if I don't, and even in its own way, it's my ego being like, well, I'm superior and all this, and I don't mean like that, obviously. But for people not to realize that you aren't your ego, that you aren't your thoughts, you aren't. You know what I'm saying? You watch them all. You sort of watch them happen. That in that way, there's sort of two elements to your consciousness, if you want. There's the thoughts and the narrative that goes through your head, and then there's a part that watches it, that sifts through, that has the willpower. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the thing that can decide to choose at any point to make decisions. And your thoughts is often a link between the body, and if you're in pain, you're often going to think anxious thoughts and shit like that. But actually, there's two elements to the sort of consciousness, if you want, and one of them is a watcher or the Otman or the fucking whatever it is in all the different religions. There's a different, or God, some people call it. There's a million different things, and like that highest self is the self that I and I know you do as well, and I try and operate from there often, and it's often sort of like it's the highest me, if you want, and it's very self-aggrandizing, it's very very spiritual, very fucking, I guess a little bit arrogant. I get, the way I don't know whether it probably isn't, but it's the way I sort of look at it sometimes, because it does come across like a bit of a superiority. But I don't think people are operating from that place of their highest, most well-intentioned self. Do you know what I mean? I don't think people operate from that, whatever you want to call it, from that field, from that from your best intention. I think some people have base desires, and again, it's like fight, sleep, fuck, all that sort of shit, like eat the food. And I think people operate from that place where they're much more in tune with sort of maybe the reptilian brain or whatever it is, a part of themselves that's a bit less. And again, I don't want to say it's less developed, because that sounds like I think I'm more developed in my own sort of way, and I'm not. But one of them where people seem to operate around like just a different sort of place in their brain than much more self-aware, much more introspective people generally tend to. And you do end up in situations where you do indulge your emotions in some way, in some way, shape, or form. You do indulge anger and lust and greed, and it is like it's the base forms of human expression. You know what I mean? It's the lowest form of human expression is literally just to act and think in a way that aligns with the base desires of the body and the emotions that are centered around that. Greed and anger and lust and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it is okay to say that, and it's not necessarily, or not at all, a superiority thing. I think we can say it because of speaking from experience, because I used to do that. So I know now, I'm a bit better at doing something, or a little bit better at operating from a certain way, because I've been shit at it before. Like the only way that I ever become slightly better at anything is if I used to be really shit at it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's certainly not like operating from a different fucking mental state and I'm this and you're this. It's much more internally myself. I'm striving to operate on a higher me more often, because I've seen me on a shitter me and I don't like it. And so I feel better and happier, and like I'm having more of a positive impact on those around me if I'm operating from a higher version of myself. So that's what I want to continue to strive to do more and more often. And so I think when you're on that sort of path, when you're trying to complete that sort of task, I guess, in your own life, you're analysing it all the time and you're looking at it. And so, again, like we were talking about before, it makes you analyse that same behaviour in other people and realise that they aren't doing it, or at least, they're not doing it very well. Or very often they're not sort of analysing their own behaviour, and then course correcting as well. And the only reason it's often clear that certain types of people, and we all know those people that you think of. You can think of 3 people right now that have no self-analysis whatsoever. They just do. And I think yeah, it's easier to notice that because you're trying not to do it.
Yeah.
So that's I guess me just rambling on, but basically saying that it's not about a superior thing. It's just, yeah, you notice it when you're trying to do it yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. I think it comes down to that stuff again, where it's like you need sadness to inform the happiness sort of thing. You need to have experienced being unhealthy to appreciate your health and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? You really come to appreciate your health when you've been injured and shit like that. And I know me and you have both had relatively serious injuries in our lives and things like that. And me hurting my back real bad was like a real eye opener to how much I didn't appreciate not having a numb leg. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a million things that you do take for granted in your life, and it seems unfortunate. It probably isn't, but on the surface, it seems a bit negative that I didn't appreciate it before.
Yeah.
As much as I should have done, and it took basically constant pain for me to then appreciate my health. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's one of them sort of things where I don't think people ever have that experience. I don't think people ever have really. And again, I don't want to use the words, but sort of transcendent experiences, maybe like experiences where they really do connect with their higher selves through whatever it is, meditation, exercise, psychedelic drugs, whatever it is, like whatever you do. Like, meditation for me is a massive one to connect with that better part of myself. And then if anything, it only informs the bigger picture of how shitty I'll be to people sometimes, how you can get out of balance in terms of your fucking base desires and not having control over some of the lowers of judgment, obviously, but like the lower level shit that goes on in your life, that has detrimental impact on the stuff that you like as maybe detrimental impact on the people around you, your friendships, your relationship, your financial health, your physical, your body, all the rest of it. Like, some of those things have complications, and I think now, if anything, that meditation in particular has been amazing for that sort of thing. You just sort of see it for what it is, and it's like, if I don't know, if I walk into a shop and I give the man the money, I can take the milk away. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like that. But like, if I eat the burger, I'll feel good for 5 minutes, and the body's going to store that as fat, and I'm going to shit in 2 or 3 hours. And there's all sorts of things. I just see it for what it is. If what you're doing is clouding yourself, like, greed because you've fucking something happened, anything. I just started to see them all the time. Where it's like, well, that's my thought pattern. That's how I got there, and that's what it is. You get in the car and you turn the engine on and you can drive it. It's just like, that's just what it is. That's just a part of it. If you remove the ego from it, you remove the judgments, and you remove all these human concepts for things. If you want to start a business, you tell HMRC, you get a name, you get a thing. There's just steps to do it. None of them are good or bad. None of them are any of the human concepts. Like, just remove all that ego shit, remove all that stuff from it, and that's what it is. There's a series of events that you've got to do with the physical body. You've got to command. This little soul man inside my head has got to command my physical atoms to do things in this material universe. And if I do that, that's what will happen. I'll finish the commission and I'll get the money. That's what it is. It's just transparent to me now in a lot of different ways because of those things. But I'm just, and again, like, going back to it, I try not to let those positive experiences transform into a view of myself that becomes egotistical, arrogant, or superior to other people who don't have that process. Because to me, it seems to be like an advanced, or it seems to be like a very positive, a very beneficial thing to do. And I don't generally see people around me doing things like that. And therefore, it's sort of, it doesn't inform my view of myself really, but I'm just careful that it doesn't appear that way for me and for others and shit like that. Then I'm like, yeah, well, I've got all my shit together, and I'm doing, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and then not to talk about it, or not to project that onto other people ever, because obviously that's not in alignment with how I see myself or how I generally, for the reasons that I do that. It's literally just, it's just transparent. It's like you drink the water and your body feels good.
Yeah, well, it's the same as like people who are trying to go to the gym. But I think if you just take it back to that base process, you consistently lift the weight, the muscle gets bigger, like the muscle gets stronger. Yeah. Like, it's just a process. And I guess if you think about yourself too much as a part of that process and who you are and your tendencies and everything that you've done in the past in terms of like skipping sessions, not being able to stick to goals, anything like that, then you start to muddy the water of that really simple process. And then you have to start, you know, finding motivation and inspiration from all different sources to maybe go once or twice to the gym, rather than just knowing the process and sticking to it. And I guess it comes down to that perfect harmony of like motivation and inspiration to get you started on something, but then discipline to continue and see it through. And trying to find that balance between those things is pretty difficult, but when you get it right, it's awesome.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it's yeah, no, I don't know, man. I think sometimes like the most difficult thing to do in people's lives is get the ball rolling. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and that seems to be a universal thing as well. Like if you're doing a truck pull or something, and you see a strong man pulling a plane or something like that, the most fucking difficult thing is to get it just going in the first place.
Momentum, it's like a tangible thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it works psychologically. It's interesting to me that so many things that appear in the physical world and some of the overarching laws that seem to be to do with logic or physics, whatever, they carry over metaphorically or symbolically really well to the sort of the realm, if you, or you know, the realm of consciousness, or like the plane of thought and feelings and stuff. And some of like the material world stuff really translates really well, and that's one of them. Like momentum in general. If you can get something going and then keep going with it, then it's fine. But what seems to happen, and again, going back to what you were just saying, it's like all the actions that you seem to do, just like the gym one's a perfect one. So it's like I sleep a lot to build the muscle, I lift the weight, break the muscle, I go to sleep, and it builds back. That sort of shit. That's what happens. That's just the process. That's just what it is. Forget about all the vanity and the ego and everything else. You want lift weight, build muscle, that sort of shit. That's what happens, and it breaks the fibers down and shit. You've got to be really careful that in anything that you do, some of that energy, if you want, some of that, the momentum that you've built up doing that, isn't translated into a worldview or an idea of yourself. And that by completing the action, I gained 100 XP from doing these bicep curls. You know what I'm saying? And you can sidle off 10 of that XP and reroute it into an opinion of yourself.
Right.
And then the opinion gains its own momentum of you and of your identity and of your personality and of who you are. And that's a waste, because that's an illusion. And that's a story you tell about yourself again and again and again. It's just like, you know, it's the same as I can tell you a story about Batman. It doesn't mean Batman's real, sort of thing. And those actions and that momentum that you can gather, you can halt it a little bit, or you can at least slow it down by letting it inform some arrogant opinion of yourself, or some, you know, some sort. You can use the power for evil, sort of thing, or use it for something that doesn't serve you. And for me, none of that stuff really makes any sense. Like in terms of vanity and stuff, like I lift weights because it's healthy, or it's like a good form of exercise. But I don't want to get like, I don't want to be a beast or anything. I don't want to walk around like tensing up all the time, because that's vanity. And I've used this momentum to inform a negative image of myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a million things like that. And I think some of them in the equal and opposite way can inform a positive image of yourself, can transfer off on, you can use that momentum and you can use that energy to make other people feel good, to make other people like, to inspire them as well, that you've got this momentum, and then it rubs off on the people around you and shit. And you've got, as a conscious and an intelligent and like ridiculously powerful creature, to a super conscious and all the rest of it, like most human beings are, you have a sort of ethical obligation to use that momentum, to use that, all the benefits of your discipline, your hard work, and your positive mental attitude, and whatever it happens to be. You have a sort of ethical obligation to not use that energy, to use that experience that you've gained to hurt or hinder another human being, because you can make a choice at any point to let that be a positive and influential and motivating factor in other people's lives. And just like, you can see that I work out. I don't need to tell you about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that can rub off on somebody else. But some people can sort of direct that away. You can like side that off into like something that's selfish or personal, or that hurts other people, or does whatever else. And I think we've got a massive like moral and sort of like ethical obligation as intelligent or self-aware creatures, to constantly make small or big decisions with whatever the field of your influence is, to help or to motivate or to be positive in somebody else's life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice thought, man. I like it.
I brought it back round. I was losing it a little bit in the middle. Like, I'm just rambling now. I was like, fuck. I had a point here and then I forgot it. And then...
That was a good ramble. It had a nice Nice message.
I think you've got a responsibility. I think if you aren't self-aware, then that's fine. Ignorance is bliss and all the rest of it. But I think now we know you've got to try and your life's made up out of them decisions, isn't it? And that's the quintessential. That's all it is, man. That's what you are as a conscious creature. That's what we've got that the other creatures don't have. It seems to be a full and conscious control over willpower or like free will. Do you know what I'm saying? And at any point, no matter what your sphere of influence is, you can make choices constantly that are beneficial for you and the people around you. That's what it is. And you've got an obligation to do that. It's not like it's a choice and that can be arrogant in its own way. That can be egotistical in its own way to be a philanthropist or something and then enjoy the limelight sort of thing. But big or small, you can just smile at somebody from time to time. You can make that choice at any point. Obviously, I mean, it's to sort of give it on. And I think the bit of my favorite people are the best people I've got. They've made an art out of that. You know what I mean? They've made they've put a charismatic fucking finesse into doing that sort of shit where they can rub off their discipline and hard work and positivity onto you in a way that looks like it wasn't any hard work, or it can look simple.
Yeah.
I've got a complicated thing to look simple.
They show you the parts of their lives on which they're doing the hard work and getting the rewards from it. And so you then want to do that same thing. And because you see somebody else that you know or see somebody else doing it, it then becomes, rather than just this thing, yeah, I know that people can do that. Of course, I know that you can just, do X, Y, Z. People have done that. But you don't actually do it. It's more like, oh, that guy from down the road's doing that. He's only 10 meters away from me. In the actual physical distance from me to him is so small that it must mean that I could probably do it too.
Yeah.
It's not just some TV host or it's not some fucking a Beyonce or some crazy superstar doing something. It's like just some guy
some average
doing
person.
Whatever it is, just your normal job. And when you see those kind of people doing stuff that's inspirational, it's powerful because it definitely has those knock-on effects to your own behavior. And he's like, right, yeah, I like that. I'll take his attitude towards that, and then I'll mold it into who I want to be. And I'll say, oh, he's good at that. I'll take his attitude towards that, and and you start to sort of do like a best of series to try and build how you want to be in each individual area. And for that, you need role models. I think you can't just do it alone.
Yeah. I think most loads of people say it, man. I think that's really true. Like the people that you spend the time with the most. I think I've heard before, and I don't really believe this one, but people before say like you become like your 5 closest friends.
Yeah, like a perfect, or like a pizza. Like each one of them represents a slice of you.
Yeah. Like create your own, and I'm the pepperoni, and you're the mushrooms and shit.
Yeah, but like, someone's fucking tuna or some shit.
Yeah,
I don't want that on my pizza.
anchovy, mate, get off.
Yeah, I'm gonna slap that away. Well, maybe just gently give them a call and say I don't want to see them anymore, and then throw the pizza on the ground. But like, oh wow, he's fucking awesome, and he's doing this, so I'm gonna put that pizza in. That's what I want. Mushrooms cheese, on there, chicken. Yeah, there was no cheese on it until now. I was doing all this other shit. I didn't even have any mozzarella.
Yeah. You're a barbecue base, man. You're not for everyone. You're not for every occasion.
Proper basey barbecue.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. I think you've got to be really careful who you spend time with. I don't mean it in a cynical way. It's just the way I'm sort of perceiving it, sort of thing. But you've got to be really careful, man, because like people do rub off on you. There is an intrinsic element of stuff like that. I don't know what it is, and I don't know whether it's like probably a well documented thing. But that you seem to like you see things in your environment, and then you tend to sort of like emulate them or become like them, or sort of like just slowly gravitate towards things that are similar.
Here's one, probably one of the most common examples you can give. How do most people start smoking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's it.
There's a million things like that, man. Like loads of different things like that. Like I wouldn't have started drinking or anything. Like there's like all sorts of different stuff unless I'd seen other people doing it or like got involved in circles of people that were like going out drinking and shit. I would have never done it. So yeah, that's interesting. But again, it's one of them where like that's something that happens. That's one of them sort of universal sort of things. Like you do become like your environment, which is why I'm fairly good at making sure that you spend a lot of spend time in nature, spend time around animals and shit like that, or like whatever it is, or making sure that I think I've
You
got
want to
like
become a dog?
yeah, with a couple of dogs,
You want to become a dog?
I wouldn't. No, I think I prefer human.
Well, what if you had like, say, out of the 10 people that you interacted most, with, what if like 9 of those were dogs? Like, would you just start barking and like walking around on your hands and knees trying to find food?
Yeah,
We could really put that theory to the test. That's what we should do next week.
no, yeah, there we go. Yeah, unethical episode number 3, unethical experiment.
Yeah, is it Ian or is it Fluffy? You decide.
Yeah, that'd be fucked up, man. No, on a serious note though, people that grow up like feral children that grow up in the woods, and you hear them stories about girls being like, or boys obviously being raised by wolves and shit like that, and they functionally become a wolf. Do you know what I'm saying? They like sniff each other's arseholes and walk around on their hands and knees and shit. Like that's well documented. Like that's more than a documented thing. Like you definitely become like your environment. And like my mum was saying, right, that when my mum's like 57 or something, she's 58 maybe, and she was saying that when she was my age, sort of thing, or a bit younger, like in her 20s, babies didn't open their eyes when they were born for a couple of weeks, and they were generally born like eyes closed for weeks. And that now kids are generally born with eyes open and looking around, and they look more conscious and things like that. And she was saying that even in a 30-year sort of a period, there has definitely been a change, a very noticeable, very like well documented change in the sort of, even over that really short, even like 2 generations or whatever, that kids are like noticeably more switched on when they're born. Like straight away, they have a bit more of a head start than before, and things like that. That's probably like evolution, or whatever you want to call it, like whatever the driving force of progress is. I don't know, like refining it. And again, that's a progress is quintessentially positive, or implies that there's some sort of a positive reform, which again is only a human concept and isn't to be applied to the objective, to the physical world or whatever. But there's a million things like that. Like we're definitely making progress, and we don't. I mean, it's not that we even notice, but it's happening like all around you at all points, and like technology in people's lives, the internet and VR and AI and shit like that. Like we're definitely on some sort of a plane. We're moving in a very strongly in a certain direction.
Yeah, like an arrow.
And very quickly as well. In evolutionary terms, like if human beings have been around for sort of 200,000 years, whatever, the last like 20 have been mental. Because I watched an episode of Friends. Me and my girlfriend have been watching Friends again. Like we downloaded, I bought legally all the episodes of Friends. I dropped about 500 quid on box sets of Friends.
Yeah, I built a time machine and went back to the 1990s so I could buy media.
Yeah, that's it. I don't even know where I'd buy it. Do you know what I mean? Like, where would I even get that from? Freaking eBay or Amazon or something.
I think there's shops. I'm sure in the cities there's high streets, and I'm sure they have shops where you can go in and you get these discs.
Like physically buy it.
Yeah, like you pay like paper money or something weird, like a physical gold coin that you like have around your neck or something, and then you pass it to him. And he says, yeah, 20 of those for this. And you're like, all right. And you give him 20 gold coins, and he gives you a little crazy disc, and then you sniff it or something, I don't know. And you learn.
You crush the disc up into a powder.
Yeah.
And then you ingest the powder, insufflate the powder, and then it plays in the mind. All right, I get it.
With ginger, I think, is good.
Ginger and a bit of lime juice, to ease the stomach and that when you're doing it. But yeah, crazy. So I legally bought about £500 worth of DVDs, and one of the old episodes. It started in the 90s, and it was like 96 or 97, I think it started. They were trying to find Joey in the city in like New York, where they are, and he didn't have a cell phone, and they couldn't find him. And he was like, "Oh, I searched around all the sandwich shops for you," and it was like made a joke out of it, obviously, that they couldn't find him, but he would either be in a strip club or a sandwich shop, basically.
Right.
Because obviously, like Joey, in most of that up until like the 5th or 6th season, is super one-dimensional. It's like disregarding Italian food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like these very one-dimensional. Some of the characters, obviously, they flesh him out and everything. But in terms of him being a very two-dimensional character, it was like womanizing and sandwich eating, and that was his like big two, and chilling out with Chandler and that. But anyway, there was a bit where they couldn't find him, and I was thinking like that was in like the late 90s, and people didn't have cell phones and they couldn't get hold of each other. Like they couldn't. I can like me. Me and you emailed, text, WhatsApps. I had you on Skype, Google Hangouts. I come to your house, stuff like that. Like there's there's about 15 different ways that I can communicate with you instantly right now. Like either by video call,
Dude, if you turn up at my house instantly, I'm gonna freak the fuck out.
Yeah, hey, somebody at your door, man.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So stuff like that, but they didn't have a cell phone, and I was thinking like, but that was normal. And they weren't bothered. Like they just couldn't.
I bet that was
them.
quite jarring to watch, wasn't it? Like
weird.
I don't know.
Absolutely weird.
Yeah, it makes you think because it's just something obviously that's second nature. You get totally used to it, and then to watch it. It's not like watching a black and white film from like the 30s or something. It's like watching Friends, and even watching Friends, there's like weird like they live in a different time to us kind of moment.
Well, it is. But they didn't know it at the time. It's one of them situations where a certain like an epoch or an era, whatever you want to call it, like those things, they only get called an era like retroactively. You know what I mean? Because at the time it was just like normal. It was just like, oh, that was the 90s. That's what people did. You know what I mean? That was normal then. But retroactively now, that was pre-internet, or like pre. So like my phone's right here, right. You know what I mean? It's right in front of me. I can keep it near me, and there's just sort of like a symbiotic relationship that's developed with the phone that I have a feeling in 20 years' time, even though we don't call it anything now, we're going to refer to it as like
PI,
pre-internet, or yeah, exactly, or like that's what you meant in it, PI.
Yeah, yeah, I was just thinking of it.
Yeah, payment protection insurance, man.
As you were talking about that, then I just thought of that. Of course, there will be. Of course, there will be. Like I don't know why it's not happened yet, but I guess people do say pre-internet, or they do say before the internet. But there will be like AD and BC. Like there's going to be a similar event for like internet, surely.
Yeah, we're going to be old men, man. We're going to be in the 60s and that, and we're going to be like, oh, do you remember before we had like fucking completely animatronic sex puppets that will suck my dick at the fucking click of a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there'll be really things. Like, do you remember before we had Wendy and it's some like ridiculously hot AI woman?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember when I was with my girlfriend for all them years and we were like really unhappy? Do you know what I mean?
Imagine being born in the 80s or something, and you're in like 2050 or something, and there's like some kids that come up to you and be like, "Oh, I heard this guy was born like 7 PI."
But I just want to say as well, I'm very, very happy with my girlfriend. I'm not like, I'm not considering like
robots
shunting her for a sex puppet.
Shunt.
Pack your bags, you fucking bitch. Yeah, so there's a few things like that where like that's definitely going to happen. We're going to looking back and be like, oh, do you remember before 4D and the aliens visited? Do you remember that? Like, do you remember like using laptops and shit like that? And like, I didn't have that chip in my arm that was money. Do you remember real physical money? Like, there's going to be a load of different things like that are all going to be like completely weird. But to us, it's going to be like
jokes about remember when there was physical money. It's kind of like that contactless.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can do it all at the same time. That kind of, it's like Android Pay, Apple Pay, contactless payments, PayPal. It's mental. There's a million things. They're phasing money out. I read a thing online. I don't know whether it's America or the UK, or I think it might be the UK. I don't know, but it was that only 3% of the money, if you want, like 3% of all the sum total of everything is physical money, and 97% is now online. And in terms of a trend, it's dropped from like 10% something down to 3%, and that essentially some things will completely drop out like that, and it'll drop down to 1 and less than 1 and stuff, and then like most of the money will become electronic payments, and like the treasury will be pretty much like an electronic institution, pretty much.
That's such a crazy concept. The idea of they figured out the proportion, like the pie chart of if the money is physical or not. Like the money. That's so strange when you think about it like that. Yeah. Especially when it becomes electronic and there's not like, you can't just take all the money. Like theoretically, you could take all the money, stick it on an island, and you can say all the money's over there now. Whereas if it's just ones and zeros in this fucking cloud of data that's constantly surrounding us at all times, like that's not a particularly stable system.
No, no, it's not. You know what I find super interesting is that. Are you still there, man? I've got like you started breaking up a little bit there.
Yeah, my laptop's playing up. It's starting to overheat. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just lagging a bit. There was a bit where you sort of zoomed in and out. Are you?
Yeah, because I'd fully charged up my laptop and then it's just got down to sort of 5%, and so I plugged in my charger, and then that seems to tip it over the edge of. It doesn't seem to, yeah, like a good combination of Google Hangouts, you know, being on the internet and charging for whatever reason. And today I actually I got an external hard drive, and I've got
Cool.
like I put like 300 gig worth of stuff on it. Now my laptop's, I think it's got 750 gig capacity on the hard drive, and it's only got about 40 gig actually on it. So it's pretty much totally free. I thought it was the hard drive that was slowing it down and making it heat up fast because it was pretty much full. I've completely cleared it off, so it's almost empty. But yet it still seems to struggle with sort of this live streaming stuff.
Yeah,
like Skype is a bit of a problem for overheating as well.
I don't, and again, not like a knob, whatever. I don't think the what is or isn't on the hard drive has any effect on the graphics card or processor. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing something labor intensive graphically, graphically, obviously the processor has its own fan and stuff, which is what's heating it up. Or like on a desktop in particular, there's a heatsink directly on the CPU, and there's one on the graphics card, so it's like they're independent sort of things. And the hard drive generally is near a fan but doesn't have its own fan, that sort of thing. Because I know what you mean. Like, definitely, it will definitely slow the processor down quite a lot if you have it full. But no more so than like the massive strain of like live streaming and using all your data, internet and shit like that.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah,
I'll have to. I've not really tinkered around with it for a couple of years, to be honest. So I probably need to clean up, defrag, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the moment it seems to be struggling when it's multitasking. And if you can call live streaming and charging multitasking, yeah, that's annoying. But it's frustrating because it seems to do every other task that I can sort of throw at it like exceptionally and instantly, and I can have like 40 tabs open on the internet and it's just laughing.
That's a lot of porn, man.
Well, yeah, you don't. Yeah,
you don't fuck about it. You're not messing about, are you?
Well, I am.
40 tabs.
It gets messy, but yeah, I'm just looking now, and yeah, we're down to like 7% and only 24 tabs of porn. I'm not going to close. They're the highlights for later. I could probably cut it down to 21, but they're the essentials, the bare essentials.
One of them's going to be the winner that you pop watching.
A crown.
One of you is definitely the winner, right? I don't know which one.
Yeah. There's 4 places. You've got bronze, silver, gold, and white medal.
White. Platinum, isn't it?
Come on.
Platinum cum. That's the laboured, sorry, the laboured cum. So do you want to wrap it up shortly then, if you've got low battery?
Yeah, let's wrap this shit up.
Let's open. Oh no, that's wrong, isn't it? Let's open this
opposite. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's been cool. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, mate, it's been awesome. So my summary of Planet X, right?
Oh yeah.
to go back to that. We've been loose with the compounds, man, but like no, it's basically a lot of it online is basically a conspiracy theory. It's like the ancient civilizations found a planet in the solar system that it fits pretty much what their SETI and some of the modern science is saying. This extra, the planet 9 or the 9th planet or planet X could be, but if you can see past all of the flaws, all of the bullshit, all of the charismatic disregard for any of the objective sort of structures of logic, rationality, maths, science, astronomy. If you can look past that, then it might exist. I don't know. I will eat my heart if it does. If it is there, the people from SETI are saying 80% sure there is a planet, but as to the Anunnaki being ancient aliens and panspermia and all that sort of shit, mate, I think it's just a massive exaggeration. So that's pretty much it. It'd be awesome if they found it, mate. It'd be crazy to me if they found basically just the real summary is it'd be fucking mental if it was there. And like, I'm suspending disbelief because these people are saying they're 80% sure, and it will be a crazy day if they found a massive 9th planet in our solar system that nobody knew about up until now.
Yeah, that would be absolutely nuts. My summary is slightly different. My my
Go on.
summary is that for you saying that panspermia and Nibiru Anubis is
Egypt. Yeah.
ludicrous and crazy and they're idiots. My summary is that you are going to be punished by Anubis himself um, for that, and all the
Yeah.
crazy followers of him are probably going to find out where you live and not just make you eat the heart; they're going to stuff it down you. So yeah, I just be careful with those people are nuts, man. That's kind of cultish shit. Imagine saying that Tom Cruise stopped me halfway through. I don't know what happened, but there was some kind of fucking. They've got technology where all of a sudden they can.
Whoa. I believed it, man. I believed it.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's how much power they have. I believed it.
Well, I'm very aroused. Jokes on them, man, because I like being pinned down. So there you go.
Force that hat down me. Force that hat down me, bro.
Yeah. Use me like a sex puppet, bro. Try it.
On that note, I'll speak to you soon, man. My laptop's
Awesome.
about to
Right.
explode.
Yeah. Sweet. Cool, man. See you in a bit.
Bye.